Yeah, we'll have the signature right after lunch. Thanks a lot. I'll talk to you later. What do you guys keep following me for?
We want to know who's in today.
Today we have Guenther Steiner. If you don't know who he is, you must have been hiding under a rock. This guy ran Haas F1 team. It's a team that had to fight tooth and nail to survive in a sport where the top teams have bigger budgets than most small countries. And when things go wrong, in an F1, everything goes wrong. This guy says exactly what he thinks in front of millions of people. You're gonna love this guy. Welcome to Above the Noise, the podcast where we cut through all the chaos and talk about the things that really matter. Connections, high-performance experiences, and the mindset of those people who really operate at the top of the game. Today, I'm really fortunate to have a man with me who's really used to working under extreme pressure. Former F1 Haas Team Principal, Guenther Steiner. Guenther, it's a pleasure to see you. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Steve.
I got to tell you, I got to start from really the beginning. I really respect those who start from nothing or even below nothing. And I understand you came from a really tiny town in northern Italy where it was a time when I think we were just going from black and white TV to color TV, let alone, what we're used to today, social media and Wi-Fi and internet and all this stuff. You're sitting there in this little town in Europe and Italy and you get yourself into rally racing and race car driving. How the hell did you start that?
I always loved racing cars. Doesn't know where it comes from. When I was 6, 7, 8 years old, I just loved cars and racing cars. And where I come from, there is a lot of skiing. It's in the mountains, ice hockey. But racing cars was, people watched it. It was in the 70s when I was a kid, on TV, as you said, black and white, and you couldn't see a lot. The definition was not what it is these days. And but basically just was always interested in, but no family connections. My family, they worked and but not into racing cars. But my introduction to the racing cars was actually begging my father. There was one race about 40 km from my hometown. It was a European hill climb championship, and I always begged him, I think starting when I was 7, 8 years old, that take me there, and he took me there on the Sunday, and I watched it, and that was my happiest day of the year,
Wow. And so how did you actually make that first step? How did you get the job? Did you call even those days, the rotary telephones, did you send a letter in? Did you apply for a job? Did you see an advertising somewhere?
Yeah, exactly that. I did my national service, and once I finished that one, we had to do it at the time, 12 months. And I saw this advert in a motorsport magazine or in a car magazine. They were looking for people, for mechanics in Belgium, which wasn't around the corner. Belgium is, it's a 12-hour drive from where I lived, Maybe at the time it was more than 12, but they just had an advert in there. And I wrote them a letter, a good old handwritten letter. I didn't have a typewriter at the time. And then you just waited, and 2 weeks later you got the letter back, and they invited me for an interview. And then I started, I called them, and we agreed, and I drove up there. I actually drove up there with my own car for the interview.
How old were you?
21.
Wow.
21. Yeah, it was 1986,
My goodness, that is really cool. Really to get in the car and just go someplace 12 hours away and apply for a job, and they gave it to you on the spot.
First of all, there was a barrier. I didn't speak English at the time. I still don't speak it properly, but at that time I didn't speak English, and they asked me, do you speak English? Because the interview was, the chief engineer which interviewed me was a German, so interviewed me in German, and he said, do you speak English? I said, yeah, a little bit. The 2 words I knew was yes and no, basically.
A little bit.
A little bit. I wasn't lying, So, no, and they gave me the job, and, 40 years later.
And you had no engineering experience at the time, or did you have some engineering experience? What were you doing at that time at 21?
Yeah, no, I had an apprenticeship as a mechanic, as a car mechanic.
Okay.
That was my experience. That's where I started off as a mechanic at the rally team. But it was so different times. Everything was, motorsport was not the industry it is now. It was a lot less organized. It was, people which wanted to work did it, and because it was, half it was motorsport, half was an adventure, because there was no proper structures in place at the time, so it was but I loved it. I just loved it. I loved to go to different places and loved racing cars. So,
how was it operating in that kind of an atmosphere and environment?
I remember in rallying in the mid-90s, I was running the reconnaissance program for a rally team. I did that for 4 or 5 years. Reconnaissance is basically the drivers and the co-driver went to the rally before and they did the pace notes, which is what the co-driver reads to the driver where the turns are. And they practiced. It's basically a practice. And that lasts about 2 weeks. But at the time, you had to go to Africa, to Greece, to Portugal, and there was no connection. And the team actually, they sent you away. You had a rally car, the 2 drivers, a van with spare parts, another mechanic. Off you went. And they told you, do not try to contact us, which was difficult anyway, because if you contact us, you have got a problem. We don't want your problems. You have to sort them out. But there was no way. The best we could do was maybe in the evening, if you were in a nice hotel, they had a fax machine. You could send a fax at the time, or make a phone call. But during the day, you were out of touch. And I remember them days perfectly. It was so different than now. And but you had to learn to think on your own 2 feet. And I still remember when the first computers came to rallying, it was like, now I don't know how many data channels you've got. It's hundreds, if not thousands, in an F1 car. At the time, I remember the first 3 data channels. It was oil pressure, brake pressure, and water temperature. And we couldn't wait at the end of the stage to look at this data, and it was not instant. You had to download it.
Right.
But also, and a little bit later on, I think it was already in the early 2000s, the first time we got engine maps, when you do the mapping, how the engine reacts.
Right.
We downloaded them.
But that was still post-race, right? I mean, it was at the end of the race, end of the day. I mean, in those days, I remember back before even fax machines when they had telex machines. I mean, I'm that much older, But when, like today, obviously with F1, they're reading every single measurement and parameter in the engine and the race and the turn and the body functions of the drivers, everything instantaneously. But in those early days, were you speaking to the drivers through walkie-talkies, or were they sort of reciting the temperatures of the engine? How were you really communicating with them? Because today you can actually alter those things on the spot, right? Electronically, but in those days the connectivity was really, really prehistoric.
Yeah, it was. And I remember when you called back home and they sent a new map for the engine and it took for hours to download it in the hotel. I still remember the noise. When you dialed in, when you VPN'd in.
AOL, you've got mail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. People don't remember. Now it's all out. Let's see what people have to say. No, it was different times. But I think it's a good thing that things moved on and we have got more information because we can do better and we should do better.
Is the connectivity today in F1, so instantaneous where you're actually changing things in the pit, in the car as it's driving on a track? Is it really changing things as it goes, or when they come into the, for a pit stop, they alter things and change things?
You get the information from the car instantly, but not only in the pits. They get it also instantly back at the base because you have got like the control room, what it's called. In the big teams, they're sitting about 50 engineers in a room in front of monitors. They have got every little bit of data the car is producing. And then when you see that, then when the car comes into the pit, you make changes if you need to, because you're not allowed to make changes while the car is running by regulation, because that would be too much of a driver aid, and you're not allowed to do that. But everybody's looking at this data and looking and seeing what they can do better next time. If the car is understeering, people already think back in the factory what to make changes to tell the race engineer, which is at the racetrack, to change. And it's a big advantage because what happened in F1, at some stage there was 150 people going to the racetrack to look after the car. It got expensive, more space needed, more flights. So there is a limit of how many people, operational people they are called, which can work on the car. It is 60 for a team. 60. At the event, but at home you can have 200. Nobody cares, and therefore you need the connectivity. So they have got the same data as the guys which are at the racetrack.
I see. You think, going not too far in the future, do you think there's ever going to be driverless F1 race cars? I mean, the connectivity is so sharp, and you're going to be driving it by computers anyway. It'll be really interesting when you see machine against machine.
it exists already. It's just like, machine against machine. Is people going to watch it or not, because you're watching a machine. So, And again, we never have to forget, somebody has to program the machine as well, because AI will help, to make it happen. But there was already a race car series, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, if not a little bit before, where they tried that. But I think the interest of the people, they still want people driving the machine. But, I think the technology would be there to do it without a problem.
And you think, the innovation that comes out of F1, I mean, is pretty significant. Obviously, everybody just thinks they go there and watch the cars go around the track. But there's a lot of innovations that actually have come out, not just for car innovation, for, let's say, tires or things like that. But can you talk about some of the really fantastic innovations that actually came from F1 and that came into the, basically day-to-day use of people?
I think F1 is pushing technologies because there is good money in F1, and people spend the money to go fast. Everybody invests, the big companies invest in F1 to develop technology, but what they want is to win on the racetrack. So it's easier to spend money when when you aim at achieving something, not just developing something and try to sell it, And then stuff is developed and then it is industrialized. But it's because nobody has developed that technology yet. So therefore, there is a lot of investment in technology, and F1 always pushes that envelope.
Also, I assume everything about F1 is about speed, but what else is really important? I mean, how would you prioritize the other things besides speed? Maybe things are more important than speed.
You need a lot of things, like you need consistent data. If you don't have that consistency in the data, if it is coming and going, you just struggle. And if it is going, you not only struggle, you have no speed anymore because you have to stop, So it is all the engineers need data. Otherwise, if you have no data, if it isn't consistent, you don't know where you are and what you're doing. For example, in F1, losing your connection doesn't work. You cannot lose it. I mean, that is detrimental, because if you lose it, you have an F1 car. If you lose the connection only 5 seconds, you need to, I wouldn't say stop, but you need to stop, basically, because the car is depending on it, and the people are depending on it to make decisions. And I think that's a lot in business as well. You cannot have on and off, because it's not only frustrating, but some people depend on consistent connections.
What would happen with the driver's results if connectivity got cut off?
There would be no
in the middle of a race.
You have to stop the car.
He can't continue driving the car.
No, he's not allowed. He would get the radio call, and if the radio doesn't work, because that is over data channels, he gets the pit sign, the good old pit sign, stop the car, because you have no contact with the car and it's dangerous to drive it. Because if something breaks, for example, like if the hydraulics, you lose the pressure, that means the steering is not working anymore. And he wouldn't notice that, while the engineers notice in 10 seconds the steering will be done, so it would not work.
So obviously the connectivity is probably the most important thing. Obviously in their business is so important to talk to drivers instantaneously. It's also, for me, when we're flying around on a corporate jet or any a corporate jet owner, it's so important, because you don't want to really get off a plane after a 10-hour flight and have 200,000 emails, that you sort of, the business deals dropped and deals could just fall apart because you're not connected all the time. Did you ever have a time where, you're in an airplane and the connectivity really saved you, and a deal from falling apart, or any example you can give?
Yeah, there is actually one very good example in 2022. We had to let Nikita Mazepin go from the team, and we had to replace him quickly with somebody. And we got to terms pretty quick with Kevin Magnussen at the time, but we didn't have a contract because it was very complex, because he was driving at the time for Peugeot in World Endurance Championship. But we needed to have a contract in place for Kevin, because otherwise you cannot get the license to drive for you, because it needs to be recognized by the FIA, the contract. It's a very complex system, but it's right to do. But we needed to get it done, and I was in the plane going to the Middle East, going to Bahrain from the States. A long trip, and you cannot be disconnected. And actually that contract with Kevin and Haas F1 was done in the air, and also sent emails to the lawyer. He needed to send to his lawyer. We sent it to make everything official with Peugeot that he was leaving, sorting out all the insurances for him, when he goes in the car. It was all done there. I landed there. Obviously, it was quite a stressful, intense flight there, but it was productive, and that's what it needed to be, because I couldn't have done it when I landed because it was in the evening. Then you had to wait another night. It's just
time zones and
exactly,
everything.
Different time zones, and we got it all done. And I got there, and actually I could go to bed.
It's amazing how when you get a phone call from somebody from a corporate jet, it's amazing. People just think it's more important that they just feel like there's so much more special because they're getting this phone call from the sky. And I like to take that and segue into getting away from technology and innovation for a while and really ask some of your experience in operating under such high pressure environments and building teams. How do you sort of pick and choose what kind of a person you want to put together on your team, and how do you motivate them and keep them motivated?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these things you learn over time. As you mentioned, getting older makes you wiser as well. You see something in people, and I always am the opinion that I always try to find the best people, but maybe also the people which fit best to what the team needs. They need to be team players. I mean, sometimes you've got very, very bright people, but they cannot work in a team. And it's like, I have nothing against these people, but that doesn't make the team stronger. That makes the person stronger. And in the end, I need to run a team. And I always try to find the best people. And over the years, you know the industry, you know a lot of people, and you know who the good ones are for certain jobs and who not. And as you said, and it's because you must have made the same experience as me. You work in Europe, you work in the States. When I moved to the States, 18 years ago now, long time ago again, it's one of these things you think, we are all Western people, everything is the same. I got there, it's a complete different culture. And I needed to learn it because it's not better or worse. It's just different. It's nothing wrong with it. But it's just like, but when you go into a new culture, what I had to learn is like, I have to adapt to the culture and maybe add my little bit to it, what I know, but don't try to change. Don't try to make an NASCAR team an F1 team. It's not going to happen. I mean, and I cannot make it successful there. So that's what I learned a lot. And then when I set up Haas F1 team, we had this strange thing with we were in America, but some stuff in F1, it's very difficult to do in America. Logistically, it's the simple things logistically because everybody is based in Europe or mainly in the UK. So, but I wanted, because it was an American team, I wanted the base there because it needed to be there. We had an American license. And then we said, where is the best to have the race team? It's normally England because you have got the biggest market of people. As you said, you need the team is just how good your people are. But then we had this collaboration with Ferrari. So we needed the engineering office in Italy because Ferrari would not give us the information if we bring it to the UK. They wanted a little bit being in control of it because we bought a lot of technology from them. So in the end, it's like, how do we do this? We had 3 bases. And at the time, people got this will never work because it was never done before like this. And if you change a team and split it up, it doesn't work. But if you set it up with a plan how to do it, that is why it worked. And like video conferencing, I always go back to under COVID, people discovered video conferencing, Zoom, all this came out. And when they said, we have got video conference, I said, we are having this since 7-8 years because that is how we communicate between all these people. And again, you just need to stay connected, have all this. I sat already on video conferences in 2014, 2015 when other people, they knew they existed. They were a lot clumsier than they are now, I must admit, But it was a technology, again, which helped us to do what we did. And in business, as you know, sometimes you have to have a different idea because more of the same just doesn't work.
Do you think you'll ever go back into F1?
I don't know. At the moment, I quite enjoy what I'm doing with TV work. And
what exactly are you doing today?
I'm doing half the races a year for German TV. I do Australian TV and I do French TV, even if I don't speak French. One of these things, one of these magic things I do. I'm on TV, but I don't speak the language. That only can happen to me. But anyway, no, I quite like that. I do corporate events. I'm ambassador of Miami GP. I've got my own company, which I had before all this happened. So I'm pretty happy because what I quite enjoy is, once I left, it was like, okay, do I miss the job or what do I miss? And what you miss if you're in an industry a long time is the people. I found that one out. It's the people, it's the environment. I mean, I spent the last 30 years of my life there,
Yeah.
You know a lot of people, and not going to these people anymore feels weird. So, but now
Was it the people, or was it the environment, or just that you were just so knowledgeable in that sector, you felt comfortable being in that world?
It's a combination. It's a combination of all the things you said. You're just comfortable, but the people is nice to be around because they have become like a second family. That is where you go to, where you are, and not being around, you would miss something. But being around now with less pressure is quite good, because now I can go and bust everybody's balls, because I have nothing at stake. I mean, yeah, I can do something, I can say something stupid on TV, but, I'm used to that one. People know me about that one,
No matter what everybody says, they love when you talk that way, okay?
Exactly. So, no. And back to your question, do I want to go in? I would go back in if there's a project out there, but just to do a job, going into work, 7 in the morning to 9 o'clock at night job, 7 days a week.
See,
I've done that.
Most people don't think 7 in the morning to 9 at night is normal. Okay, I understand. I hear you. I mean, we're 24 hours a day. If the phone rings,
exactly.
You're checking
there,
in the middle of the night, you're checking your emails, your text messages, WhatsApp, whatever it is. You think being based now in the U.S. and possibility of some F1 stuff, you think there might be some more F1 locations that, Miami, Vegas, you think there might be some other possibilities, or is it too Eurocentric?
No, I think now 3 races in the US is very good. It's the right amount for the moment. I think in the US there can still growth can happen. And I think it will happen. But in the moment, I think stabilizing F1 had such a growth over the last 5 years, I would say. It did like this. It needs to go a little bit like this. Stabilize what it has got, and it's very good. The 3 races in America are very good. I don't think there is more races in Europe than in the US, and Europe is a little bit bigger than the US, but not a lot. But I think that it's a global sport. I think what the future should have a race in Africa, in my opinion, because it's the only continent is not touched by F1 in the moment. There is possibility there. And as a world championship, it should go there. There is obviously work going in to get there. It's not easy to have a race in Africa because Africa has got different problems than having an F1 race. But I think F1 is in a good place, and especially in the US, the growth over the last 5 years, it's fantastic. I remember when I moved there 18 years ago, people knew F1, but nobody cared about it. It was strange, Oh, yeah, no F1. That was it. All right, then, yeah. Have you got an opinion? No. And now people actually speak about it, and you must experience that.
Of course.
You've got friends which now watch it, which are getting interested again, because there was interest, I found out now. When Mario Andretti was driving, there was a big interest in it,
Yeah, sure. It takes a personality. And when you have, Schumacher or whatever, you get some name who pops out, and it sort of brings people into the industry. And now, with social media and everything like that, sort of rewind a little bit, there's so many younger people now that follow, racing and F1 and all forms of racing. What would you recommend somebody who has no engineering background, maybe they've been driving go-karts or something like that, or maybe they haven't even done that, but they want to get into this world of racing and F1 and NASCAR. How would you give them a recommendation? What should they do first? Who should they be contacting, or what kind of job should they be looking to start with?
Go and study whatever you want to do. You want to be an engineer, a mechanic, in the commercial department. It's like a big corporate, an F1 team. Go and see in a minor league motorsport series what if you like it, and build up your CV, build up your resume, because there is a lot of racing going on which we don't see on TV. Go and work for a small team as a volunteer while you study, then you feel, do I like this? because sometimes we dream of something where you say, this is cool, this is what I want to do, and then when you do it, says, actually, isn't this cool? This is hard work.
Yeah. Be
This
careful
is not
what you ask for.
Exactly, yeah. This is actually hard work, and I always say, go and try it, and try to work in a team, because it needs to be a team, and then if you like it, while you're doing it and finding out if you like it, and you're studying, so you've got your education on it, you build up your resume, and then when you get to a little bit later in your career, you can apply for a job in F1. And what I always look for people which made an experience in the industry, which are not straight out of uni and say, I think I should be this and this engineer. Based on what, because you have never done it. You don't know if you like it. You don't know if you're good at it. Nobody knows. But if I can see, he was helping a Formula 4 team or for a touring car team for 2 or 3 years, I know the person actually know what the job will be.
These kids are obviously, they might see things or they might assume things are different than what the reality is. I mean, that's always perception is not reality, right? I mean, looking at, going back to how you became now even a superstar from after F1, now you're a big shot on TV, on Netflix, and that's a whole nother thing, right? So, I mean, tell me a little bit about how that might have changed your life, being now in a series on Netflix.
I didn't try to be this, I didn't try to do this. Just happened. This is one of the things that happened in my life. I wake up one morning, they bring the series out, and all of a sudden, millions of people know you. For
crazy,
it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy.
Drive to Survive. It's a cool name, right? I mean, and it gets people's attention, but it's so action packed when you watch a trailer or you watch any other part of the show. I mean, it's high intensity. It's high pressure. Is it 100% true? Was it? I don't know. I mean, or maybe you don't want to give that secret away.
No, I don't know. I don't watch it.
You never seen the show?
I never seen the show. No, I never seen the show. And I tell you why I didn't see the show. There was an F1 commission meeting, which is all the 10 team principals, the FIA president and the CEO of F1. And the night before, there was the premiere in London, actually. Mm-hmm. And I didn't go to the premiere because I came over from the States. And they all had an opinion about what happened there. And I was like, wow. Because I actually knew what was in it, because I participated, I was quite shocked when they told me what they broadcast, how they broadcast. I said, I'm not going to watch it because I don't need to watch it. I'm not an actor. An actor, I think, watches himself to get better next time. That's what I would think,
Yeah.
But some of actors don't even watch themselves for the same reason, because when I watch myself and I try to be better, so next time I see a camera, I try to be somebody different, and then I get confused because 3 weeks later, I don't remember who I tried to be 3 weeks ago,
Yeah,
and you get it. So I didn't watch it, and the second thing why I didn't watch it was people said, did you see what you did? And if you didn't watch, you say, I don't know.
Did you see what you did? You did what you did. Of course you know what you did.
Yeah, but I said, I don't really know because I didn't watch it, so I don't have to debate about it, I just could brush it away. So, but what I did, I never had to stage anything. Obviously, you do the interviews, but I mean, if you're an F1 team principal, you do interviews every weekend.
Sure.
So you're not doing it only for Netflix. So it's nothing new, but you do them. But otherwise, we never staged anything because obviously they try to push you. Hey, could you do it? No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to acting here. So I don't know what the other people did for it or not, but I never staged anything. Obviously, in when we had that. When I went with Mattia Binotto at the wine tasting, right. We didn't stage this. We actually had good fun, We had good fun.
Listen, I think that's why people like you, because you're authentic. I mean, people connect much more with authenticity. So, I mean, I don't know. Did you deal with some of your teammates in that sort of abrupt kind of language? Is that more successful than trying to be ginger coating it in a very gentle kind of way?
I'm always pretty direct, and knowing that, and I'm always in the opinion, I can agree to disagree with somebody, but I want other people to do that as well. But, the sugar coating, because then you don't make progress. Say what you need to say, and, we could be of a different opinion how to do something, how to make a decision, but somebody in the end has to decide. We cannot, I always as well say, no decision is the worst decision.
100%.
Because I rather make the wrong decision, learn out of it, and make the next one better, and that for sometimes, I sound quite direct. I don't want to be the angry man, but sometimes you have to tell people, this is what we need to do, guys. I mean, we can't speak another 3 hours here and run around in circles and come to no conclusion, move out of this meeting, and we wasted 2 hours, but we still haven't got a decision. We make a decision. If it is wrong, don't be afraid to redo the decision.
Guenther, it's really been a pleasure having you on the podcast. We really appreciated this back and forth. I really learned a lot. And hopefully one of these days I'm going to get you on one of these airplanes. And to our listeners out there, make sure you stay connected, stay ahead, and make sure you cut through all the noise. Thanks very much for listening.